Mr. Sohail Ahmed to chair the next session, which is on automobiles, sector which is considered quite sensitive, and we thought best to catch hold of Mr. Sohail, who's basically a manufacturer of automobiles. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Sohail.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the sleep hour session. Lunch and then that too rice. My God, it's quite a story there. So somehow we need to keep you all awake. We have some interesting speakers here. Waqar Ahmed, the Deputy Executive Director, Sustainable Development Policy Institute, Pakistan. And then we have Biswajit Nag Sahab, he's an Associate Professor, Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi. We also have Mr. Vishwanath, Principal Advisor, APJ SLG. I don't know what this stands for. Law Offices, New Delhi, right? So I'll first request Mr. Waqar Ahmed to please give us his thoughts.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start by thanking ICRIER for a very stimulating discourse this has been, and thank you to the entire ICRIER team, particularly Dr. Nisha Taneja, for having us here for this wonderful session. I basically thought that because this is the first presentation, it was important to introduce the auto sector in Pakistan as well. So I just thought that perhaps while we are doing a study which is work in progress, it was important to start with sort of an introduction of where Pakistan's auto sector and its capacity stands. And of course, we have a very able chair, of course, to sort of expand on that as well. Now, the work in progress that we are doing, we started off by analyzing the competitiveness of the auto industry vis-a-vis India and exploring our import and export patterns in this sector, and perhaps identifying the various hindrances which are impeding the cross-border trade, and to see whether India, Pakistan can become potential import partners. I'll just let you know in a while what we sort of mean by this. Now, Pakistan's automobile sector has done well, actually. It grew from 6.2% in 7-8 to 18.2% in 2011-12. It has contributed a very healthy amount to our annual GDP, contributes 16% to our value addition in the manufacturing sector, generates a substantial number of jobs, I would say, and is also a contributor to our revenue collection. And the evolution has also shown the maturity of this sector, automotive sector in Pakistan. It started off with the establishment of National Motors. Then there was a period of nationalization, but it was quickly sort of recovered by a phase of denationalization, where we had initial joint projects between PACO and the private enterprises, followed by a post-privatization period, which really saw the growth of industry giants like the Indus Motors, Honda and Suzuki. In terms of the firm level specification, and if one looks at the sort of installed capacity, Park Suzuki has been doing well, but in terms of the turnover, one can see that Toyota Motors has been the sort of a market leader, and these are 2012 figures that we are indicating. Followed closely by Honda Atlas Motors. So basically it is the Indus, Honda and Suzuki which have been the three main auto manufacturers and assemblers who have been leading this market, or who actually form the majority of this market. Now, it is interesting to note that the turnover of cars and two and three wheelers have actually cradled. It has grown over the back of a rising middle class in Pakistan, and of course those rising incomes have gone into people buying more cars, which was fueled by a pattern in the banking industry which allowed leasing and hire purchase on very easy terms for the household sector. Not so much seen in case of trucks and buses. As you can see, they have, in fact, in case of trucks, it has declined. Almost sort of depicting a picture of overall Pakistan's growth rate, which is actually which has averaged around 3% in the medium term. But yes, there has been a healthy turnover in case of cars and the 2- and 3-wheelers. In case of imports and exports, while automobile exports have not picked up the manner in which one would have expected, despite of the sort of several policy measures that have been there at the government level. There have been issues with the energy sector. There have also been issues with the higher cost of production. But somehow the import has really shot up, and there are reasons for this, of course. Pakistan's import policy in case of auto sector was relatively liberalized once it was seen that local manufacturers were perhaps not being able to meet the demand. And in 2011, there was a study that there were around 500 independent dealers who were involved in selling of used cars. There is anecdotal evidence that this number has doubled now, and there's a large number of imported cars flowing from Japan, most notably, and other countries as well. Now, the key reasons for preferring imported vehicles include road safety, quality of parts, and advanced technology that is being provided at a cost which is not at a lot of variance with what is being provided by the local assemblers. The key trading partners of Pakistan automobile sector in case of exports, the top 3 in 2012 were Afghanistan, Nigeria, Bangladesh, followed closely by Italy, UAE, and the US. The import partners, as I said, included Japan, Thailand, and China. And then there's a substantial gap before which Singapore comes as an import partner as well. I would also like to bring here the sort of same table for India, in which you see India exporting to the United States, to the South Africa, to the UK. And significantly, India has, and this is a lesson for Pakistan's auto sector, India has benefited from the China factor, which we keep on talking about. The proximity should actually help you in producing cheaper final output, of course. Now, on the bilateral trade between the two countries, as you can see, Pakistan has been exporting, which is the red bar, it has been exporting some numbers to India. I mean, not in a manner in which one would like to see, but the auto exports from India to Pakistan has certainly not picked up. It's almost a flat line since 2007. Both regimes are very restrictive on both sides in case of auto sector. And if one is to look at the minuscule, the range of products in which both countries are sort of trading, Pakistan's import from India is almost in the same HS categories in which Pakistan is exporting to India. But this is not to say that there is no demand for the Indian parts. Or the parts that we are actually importing from India. If you look at the same parts which Pakistan is importing from India, how much of those parts is Pakistan importing from the rest of the world, the numbers are actually significant. So this is the ROW, the rest of the world, in the same HS categories which Pakistan is actually exporting. But of course, as we keep on telling the government as well, that there are ways in which consumer demand finds out its ways. And one of the ways in which consumer appetite for Indian products has been fulfilled is basically the informal trade between India and Pakistan. And while there are a host of categories in the STPI study that we have done on informal trade, in case of automobile sector in 2012, the parts amounted to $5.7 million US, and the tires, majority of which were refurbished, were to the tune of $170 million US. Now, we also know from our industry that this has harmed Pakistan's local industry, because these items are coming via the ex-customs channels, and they end up competing with the formal sector. So this is actually harming Pakistan's formal industry. The key routes from where we identified that these parts are coming include Dubai, Afghanistan, and Afghan transit trade route. There is also evidence of indirect trade via Dubai, Thailand, and Singapore. Now, one of the key reasons that those who were dealing in the informal trade in Pakistan, one of the key reasons that they gave the price variance. And of course, there are different estimates, and I think Sohail Ahmed Saab would have more recent estimates of the prices on both sides. But this is what we were getting from the market. And of course, we had our interviews as well on both sides from the industry manufacturers, and we try to sum it up according to the engine capacity that is available on both sides. And there can be numerous reasons. This is the effective price. This is not the price which is actually published on the website. We know that the consumer ends up paying a lot more of including the hidden costs once they actually acquire the automobile. But this is one of the key reasons, and this follows, the reason follows in case of auto parts as well. So there were 19 markets in Pakistan where you can buy off-the-shelf Indian auto parts, and the key reason was the higher prices in Pakistan, due to which consumers were demanding the Indian products. Now, when we split the stakeholders and the key views in case of bilateral trade and in case of automobile sector, you have 3 or 4 main views. It's the government, the auto manufacturers, and the consumer group. Now, just to throw in a punchline of what each is saying, the consumers would tell you that the auto industry has been a recipient of subsidies in Pakistan and it's remained protected through tariff and NTBs, and only a few groups have control over these prices and consumer get exploited. This view has been resonated in one of the reports by the Competition Commission of Pakistan as well. The manufacturers and the assemblers would actually say that they would fear dumping from India due to its large economies of scale. The cost of production in Pakistan is higher, and the government needs to cooperate with them in order to remove the supply side glitches. The traders who mostly deal in the parts would say that India can imply cheaper import of intermediate goods, and consumer demand for Indian parts is still high. Now, government's view, and I'm giving it over here with a disclaimer, of course, we believe that they want to allow the CKD trade and gradually allow the trade in CBU, and this sort of has been resonated in the ministers' meeting last week in Delhi as well. But this matrix is evolving, and the players and their views keep on changing. So we did hear 4 months back that Pakistan Suzuki has given up its opposition to the sort of standpoint on its imports from India. And the key reasons included that Suzuki may be able to give better environmental standards if parts from the Indian Suzuki are allowed to flow in, which Pakistan Suzuki can use, and more economical prices for inputs and the final product. This is an interesting sort of comparison, and the Secretary Commerce in the morning did discuss about the supply chain integration, and this is where Pakistan can sort of build its own strategy in future for trading in auto sector with India. India is one of the largest sort of demander in case of the low engine capacity. 80% of what is sold is between 800 to 1000 cc, and Pakistan has niche in assembling this category, and this is where supply chain integration can actually happen. And I'll show you in a while how this could take place. The NTBs, I won't spend more time on this, as you already have copies, and this has been discussed at fair bit of length in the morning presentations as well. But these certainly, while India is correct to some extent in saying that these are not NTBs and they may be there for all countries, our view has been that yes, they may be for all the countries, not just for Pakistan, but they're applied more strictly on Pakistan. This has been sort of our field view. But Indian import duties for two-wheelers have been very harsh, and this is where Pakistan has comparative advantage. And apart from the customs, there are additional charges, port expenses, and which actually raise up the cost to over 25%. And if there is to be a bilateral agreement in this sector, this is where we would like to sort of see that India tries to give access to the Pakistani two-wheelers. The views from Pakistan Association for Automotive Parts have actually been communicated at the government level. They do see India as a partner in technology transfer. They would like to collaborate with India. They think that India can work towards the capacity building. And the fact that their concerns on India dumping in Pakistan can be done away with if there is an import of Pakistani vehicle which is assured, and we can still, we'll just discuss about this in the last slide. And then you have auto import policy with India, which according to them should focus on selective buying from India, which means that those products which are not manufactured in Pakistan should be given priority. But largely this sector was not opposed to sort of removal or further liberalization of negative list. Now, this is my last slide, and I think I just want to end up with these two examples which can be possible entry points for India-Pakistan auto trade. First is, and this is something that Dr. Manzoor had actually given a presentation in quite some length in the first annual conference which was held in this room at the ICRIA. First was Argentina-Brazil agreement of 1999, where duty-free exports from Brazil were linked to its import from Argentina. And this has helped Argentina to build its own competitive advantage in the same sector. And the second is the Canada-US auto sector agreement, in which, and in this agreement, for every US car sold in Canada, the US manufacturer had to produce 1 unit in Canada. And this also implied that the local labor force was not laid off. So these are some examples that both countries can learn from, and I certainly look forward to hearing further from the audience. Thank you.
जी आप अभी सवाल पूछना चाहते हैं?
Just quick one clarification that the two-wheelers, the Indian duty is only 5% because it is not included in SAFTA sensitive list, and effective duty is only 5%. But still Pakistan cannot export because of the difference in the emission structure as well.
There may be some other thoughts also on what Waqar just mentioned, but I think we'll leave it for the later parts of the things. May I now request Ms. Wajid Sahab to give his views on the subject?
Suhail Saab and my fellow panelists, distinguished audience. At the outset, I'd like to thank ICRIA for inviting me to make this presentation. Already there is a good presentations made from Waqar on automobile industries and their possible kind of wish list, as I say, that what we should do. I'd also like to speak on the similar line. In my presentations, I would rather try to understand the voice of Pakistani manufacturers, which is basically a sign of concern. I mean, they are very clear and loud. All the media are very much supporting Pakistan, automobile manufacturers or assemblers, that we need to be afraid of India because India might wash out the SMEs sectors in Pakistan. So in that context, I tried to understand that how genuine is the concern and whether there are any particular way we can actually sort out the issues. Now, my presentation is a bit long as the time may not permit. So what I'll do, I'll just skip some of the initial slides which we have discussed in the morning sessions about general India, Pakistan. I'll straight go to the automobile part and we'll discuss this. So as we know that in the last leg of, MFN removal of the negative list, still some of the automobile products are there. The numbers actually in different ways, when if you look at, it depends on at which digit actually we are looking at. When you're looking at 8-digit level, it is 385 products. When you look at 6-digit level, there are 167 products. There is a significant growth in Pakistani automobile sector also in recent time. As we see, many of the companies, when we interacted, they said that they are now ready for exporting to India. So why only importing to Pakistan? They are also interested to export. Now, while doing these things, we find that there is a biggest gap because there is not much of data analysis available, because the past trade data is absolutely almost zero, as I say, because most of the Indian goods are not able to cross the border because it was there in the negative list, as well as Pakistani exporters or India's imports from Pakistan was not much. So these actually, the gap of information creates a kind of a confusion in the mind of the traders that what actually is going to be in the future. Now, what I tried to do, because there was not much of data, so we cannot do much of simulation kind of